Welcome to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, my friend, president of the Athletics of Major League Baseball, Las Vegas's newest professional sports organization, and my fellow board member at the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance and the Vegas Chamber. So, Marc, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We are excited about so many things, but before we get to the stadium and the A's and your role, for our listeners, for those that don't get to spend time with you or know you, can you tell us a little bit, tell our audience about where you were born, where you grew up, went to school, perhaps take us to your first job after graduation?
You got it. I was born in Queens and lived in Long Island until I was 5. My family relocated to upstate New York, and we define upstate as Rochester. So 6 hours north of New York, not 45 minutes out of New York. So we moved up there in the mid-'70s. My father was in the franchise business and moved up there for an opportunity and opened Burger King restaurants. So we relocated to Rochester when I was young. That's sort of home. That's where I grew up. I went to school in Atlanta. I went to Emory University, got an economics degree. And you asked where I went for my first job. My first job was with the then Los Angeles Raiders. So I started right out of college and moved to Los Angeles from school in Atlanta.
That's a big move.
Yeah.
Wow. And of course, I met you when you were still with the Raiders. But tell us a little bit more about that journey in sports, because it sounds like your first job after graduation was already with an NFL organization. But tell us about from there all the way now to the A's. What are the stops along the way in that career?
Sure. My grandfather was a high school gym teacher in Brooklyn, and he had the benefit of coaching a lot of great people in the sports world, people like Sam Ratigliano and Doug Moe and Billy Cunningham. Those are older names, but in all different sports. And one of the people he had the pleasure of coaching was Al Davis. Wow. And they kept a friendship their whole lives. My grandfather indoctrinated us to be Raider fans when we were very young. I had a chance to meet Mr. Davis when I was a kid. And when my grandpa passed away in 1987, I was still in high school. Mr. Davis gave a eulogy at the funeral, and it was very powerful and obviously had a big impact. I went up and reintroduced myself, and he hands me his business card. And he said, "Why don't you come work for us in a few years when you're in college? We hire college kids to do summer internships during training camp." So I obviously remembered that conversation, filed that one away. And about 4 years after that, wrote a letter. This is 1991. And about a month later, heard back from his assistant, "We'd love to have you come out this summer." Wow. Drove cross country, and that's how I got started in the sports world. That's really just the impetus behind it was a family connection that obviously led to a communication, which led to an opportunity. So I started as a training camp intern in between my junior and senior year. Loved the experience. Obviously, the sports world was very, very different back then, very lean, very small staff. So we had a chance to do a lot and meet a lot of people and get connected in a way that is a little tougher nowadays, a little harder to differentiate yourself. Became friends with a gentleman who ran the operations side of the football team. He invited me back upon graduation from school for an entry-level job, worked for the team in Los Angeles. We had 3 or 4 people working in the football side, just doing administrative work, helping out the coaching staff, answering the telephone, driving players to the doctor. And wow. So that's how I broke in. And it was a great experience. I was 22. I was living in Los Angeles. It was a lot of fun. I look back fondly on those days. I'm still close with a lot of the people that those relationships that began in that time frame. So I still talk to a lot of those folks. The big opportunity, I would say, was the salary cap came out, and you had this seismic shift in how the NFL operated. Prior to 93, if you were drafted by a team, you were at that team. You really were very limited in your ability to go and explore and share your talents somewhere else. So you might maybe you got traded, or if you had a couple rough years and got released and went on to somewhere else. But for the most part, teams stayed together. And when the salary cap came out and ushered in this new era of free agency and the new era of parity, the league changed substantially. I was 33 years ago. Changed in terms of roster makeup, in terms of how the teams operated and the success of the league. We didn't call it analytics back then. Nobody really did, but we started doing analytics. So we started tracking how players were compensated. So a scout might have a depth chart based on size, speed, height, weight, different performance metrics. We created a depth chart for how much we paid you. So we tracked how much Jaime made. Did we give you a signing bonus? Did we pay you a salary? Did we pay you a roster bonus? And we started looking at how different teams valued different positions. So I'll give you a good example. In 93, well, who's the highest paid player in football?
Used to be Tom Brady, but
No, I'm sorry, position-wise.
Oh, position-wise, the quarterback.
Always the quarterback, right? In baseball, always the pitcher. Okay. In 1993, the lowest paid position group, what do you think it was?
1983. And
93.
93 in football. Probably one of the offensive line.
Yes, right. Offensive line was the lowest paid position, other than kickers.
Yeah.
And by 3 or 4 years into free agency, they just kept going up. And now offensive line is probably second or third.
Wow.
Behind defensive line, maybe some receivers.
Because you identified the value and put a better...
Well, I didn't identify it, but the coaches and the scouts and the people who were making those decisions looked at it and said, obviously the quarterback's important. I better protect that asset. And so all the offensive linemen started getting paid better. And all the backups from teams that people thought Jaime was a good second string left guard, we stole you and paid you as a starter. And so you started to see just the change in how teams were going to get, how players were going to get compensated. So I was fortunate to get to do some work on that at an early age. And it got me some exposure to the front office side of things. I was working in the football side of things. And in 1995, I was offered a position to move over to the business side, continue to do some of that analytical work for the general manager as they were assessing how to pay players.
Still in LA, or have they
This is
Oakland?
LA moving to Oakland, correct. So in 1996, 95, 96, we relocated from Los Angeles to Oakland, was involved in some of that relocation and some of the decisions behind that. Again, it was a very small, lean organization. So if you talk to the people, again, these are relationships that I still have to this day. When you talk to those people, everybody did a lot of jobs. So you got a chance to see, almost like working in a minor league sport now, is you'd have a chance to do a lot more than you might. It's staff size have exploded in all the different sports. But back then, we probably had 32 people in the whole front office. So you just had a lot of opportunity. So the relocation allowed that opportunity to exist. We moved the team to Oakland. There was some good in that. There was some bad in that in terms of the decisions. These were all lessons that were helpful in the relocation here and what I'm doing now with the athletics. So as the model changed on the player side, the model also changed on the business side. And teams started to look at their stadium situations as the economic drivers for financial success. And you had new ownership groups that were much more entrepreneurial, much more capitalistic, buying teams and looking at that and saying, all right, how do I generate additional revenue to justify this cost that I spent on the team? And so stadium construction and new stadiums renovations became very, very important. About the mid-'90s into the early 2000s, you saw a huge stadium boom. And the Raiders relocated to Oakland and did a renovation, and it was not a great economic model, and they saw all the other teams start to pass them. So by, I would say, the mid-2000s, that started to be the majority of our focus, was how do we come up with a new stadium solution. Spent about 10 years trying to get that accomplished in Oakland, failed. Not afraid to admit that. Everybody took some blame, the politicians, the municipal leaders, the business leaders, the team itself. We gave it a good effort, and we failed. And the opportunity first came to relocate to Los Angeles. This was around 2015. And the Raiders partnered with the Chargers on a stadium project down there. The Rams were working on what eventually became SoFi. And we really had a chance to learn a lot in practicality of how these deals work. And that we sort of jokingly call it our master class in how we learned how to build a stadium. So we spent 2015 learning all those elements. The league ultimately decided to award it to the Rams. And so the Raiders went back to Oakland, and really out of nowhere, the opportunity in Vegas popped up in early 2016. And as you know, this community is incredible at getting these types of things done. And from a time standpoint, what was accomplished here in that next 10 months and then the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think you'll ever see that occur in any other community. But we went from initial meeting with the folks from the Sands Company, Rob Goldstein, obviously Mr. Adelson, and all the folks, Patrick Dumont, all the folks there, with Governor Sandoval and former Governor Steve Sisolak, who was at the county at the time. Just a lot of people came together. Marilyn Kirkpatrick behind the scenes was doing a lot. And you just saw the business community and the municipal leaders all say, this is really good for this community. Yeah. We need to make this happen. So from January of 16 to October of 16, the deal was put in place, the design was done, the economics behind the deal were put in place, and then there was some legislation passed to raise the hotel tax to fund about 37% of what became the Allegiant Stadium budget. And then we were off to the races. That leads to today. And obviously left the Raiders about 4.5 years ago, spent some time working on a basketball arena. I'm sure we'll get into that later. And then that led to the opportunity with the Athletics to come and help them with their project. And it's been a great first year. And the project's about 7 months into a 31-month build. You can obviously see the project coming out of the ground on the corner of Trop and Las Vegas Boulevard. The location's just incredible. And the project's been a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, Mark, I think, I told you earlier off camera, the community here was really worried when you left the Raiders because we thought we were going to lose you. But now we're also glad that you are a part of the A's organization and building this fantastic stadium. That's what the next question is about. But as you told the story, I thought about two things. First, to mention somebody who I know you and I deeply respect, our friend Jeremy Aguero was part of that, building the economics and stuff. And then to ask you a small question. The stuff you were describing, I always think about this term of a movie called Moneyball. Is Moneyball what you were describing? The analytics and that kind of stuff, assigning values?
Certainly that's one of the more famous examples of it. And the athletics organization has always been very innovative and very creative in trying to navigate some challenging rules. Baseball obviously has a very different economic model than football. Football, a lot of the revenues are shared. And the cost structure is very much shared. So the range of what a team might spend on a particular roster in football is within a very narrow band, maybe 10 to 15% from the low end to the high end, whereas in baseball it can be a factor of 4 or 5 times. So it affects parity and it affects the impact on the field a lot differently. So at the Athletics, they recognized that a long time ago, and they started looking at things that maybe the rest of the league wasn't looking at and wasn't identifying. A lot of that, I believe, is probably caught up. Most of the teams are very sophisticated when it comes to analytics and spend a lot of money on it. But this is a very smart organization, and David Forst and his mentor, Billy Bean, built quite a system, and you see their tree of people who have gone on to other teams and experienced success. So they've rebuilt the roster and done it a number of times, and I think you can see the team on the field starting to really pay dividends towards the end of last year, one of the best second halves in baseball last year, and just an exciting young core of players. And the good thing is now the team has the resources to retain all those players. We just signed Tyler to a long-term extension last year, Lawrence Butler, and Brent Rooker. So you're starting to see the team draft and develop talent the way they always do, and now reward that talent, retain that talent, and build that core that can give you a 4, 5, 6 year run of success that you see some of these other teams do, as opposed to having to maybe reinvent themselves every couple of years.
That sounds to me like 2028, when the season starts here, we could be contending for playoffs and stuff.
Well, I don't want to make any predictions. We're obviously excited for the 2026 season, but the core of the team is signed for a number of years, both from some free agents that we've signed, as well as the players we've drafted and developed and retained, the ones I previously mentioned, and then a very strong farm system. And they're very forward thinking, and they're very smart about it, and they want to put a great product on the field every year, but they obviously recognize what this move and what these additional revenue streams will do for the organization on and off the field, in the community. And now we're rewarding those players accordingly and building that core.
That's great. Mark, the next question, you started to allude to it already, but we are, all of us who drive see the beginnings of that footprint of that stadium, and you've talked about how you and the organization, the Raiders, learned a lot at Sophie, and then you also mentioned when you left the Raiders, you started to look at basketball stuff. But building that Allegiant Stadium for all those years you were there, all that experience that you've shared, how is it helping you now with this project that you have with the A's?
The easy answer is just to say it's always much more convenient to do something the second time. You know all the players, and the Athletics were very smart in who they went out and hired. They hired the same construction firm, Mortensen McCarthy, to do a JV. So they built Allegiant, they've built other facilities around the country. So they know the process within the county. They know all of the subs in the market. They know what it's like to build here. They know the weather patterns. They know everything that can impact a $2 billion project. So that was certainly key. The project management team's the same. The architect of record is the same. So you just were able to mirror what was a very successful project, both in terms of construction and sales performance, and look at that blueprint and say, well, we're going to try and follow a lot of that. And then obviously my role in it made a lot of sense for them to come and reach out. So it was about a year ago that John Fisher and Sandy Dean reached out, and we had a number of really good, open, honest conversations, both about the project, both about our history together, got through those issues very, very quickly, and started to look at what we could do here. We've designed just an absolutely spectacular building. Mm-hmm. And you have to do that here. You've been here a long time. You know this market. You can't just build, I don't want to besmirch any other facilities. You can't build a basic ballpark and plop it onto the Las Vegas Strip in that location. Yeah. You have to build something architecturally significant. You have to build something from an experience standpoint that is going to exceed all expectations. You have to be the best if you want to be here, if you want to compete in this market. And learn that early on. There's a gentleman that worked at the Sands named Andy Aboud. Yeah. I think you know Andy. Yeah. And Andy was really good at leading us through those first few months and years when the Raiders talked about coming here and the project that became Allegiant Stadium, in terms of what you really needed to do here to stay at that level of interest and that level of innovation. And the building's spectacular. The design, both from the exterior standpoint, and then when you start to get into the insides of the bowl and what the game day experience is going to be like for the team, for the players, for the staff, and then for obviously the patrons and the people that are coming to watch baseball here. It's really spectacular. We'll get into it, I assume. Yeah. But that was a lot of what we covered in those first couple months. And then obviously the economics in terms of what the structure of the deal looked like and what they wanted from me. And so we spent a couple of weeks going back and forth on things, and it made a lot of sense. It was an easy thing to say yes to. I'm glad you did, Mark. And one of the things I remember when you gave me the tour of Allegiant Stadium when it was recently built, and to learn all these features that it had, cool stuff. I mean, so the legacy and the paying homage to the Raider history, the day club, nightclub set up behind the inns. I mean, so many cool features that you don't see anywhere else. And of course, the roof, that transparent roof, and how it's held together, the field that goes out, on and on. So, is there any significant feature that's going to be really cool that you can let out of the bag now? Is it all going to be surprises when we get our season tickets and show up on day one? Certainly, we've shared a lot of that in the renderings, and I'll get into some of it. We have the same situation that we did with Allegiant, which is we're going last, which is both a benefit and a curse. A curse in that we had to wait that long, a benefit in that you could see what everybody else has done. And you could cherry pick some things that you liked from other projects, and you could avoid doing some things that people said not to do. I'll give you an example. Everyone asks, does the roof open? And while that would be exciting, when you talk to most of the team owners and executives who have done retractable roofs, it's one of the things they say they wish they didn't do because it's very, very costly. It adds time to the development schedule. It's obviously very expensive. And for the most part, they don't really open it that often. And when do you really go into a building and look up and say, wow, that roof's amazing? Yeah, it's cool, but it's not necessarily driving your decision to be a part of the project. So from an architectural standpoint, the design was done by a gentleman named Bjarke Ingels out of New York, and just a visionary in terms of what he's done. This was his first sports building. And the building's meant to mirror pennants, like baseball pennants. So you'll see those 5 connectivity pieces that make up the roof, but also allow a lot of natural light in without having a feature of an open air roof. So there are the window facing out to the strip is, I believe, domestically the largest glass curtain window in the world. It is glass. It is glass. Wow. Yeah, those are mullions going down. I believe each piece of glass will be 8 feet by 8 feet. Wow. Just a beautiful piece of architecture, and then also a beautiful way for people who are in the ballpark to look out on the iconic strip, and then also allow some natural light in. But the way the building is angled, the sun will go over the building, not go directly in. Wow. So you won't have people covering their eyes or having their sunglasses, but you'll have some natural light. Once you get into the building, there's 85% of the seats are along the foul lines. So the sight lines are great. It's a pretty small footprint. It's only 9 acres. So the building itself is about 960,000 square feet. To put that into context, Allegiant is about $1.8 million. Most football stadiums are $1.5 million up to $3 million. Most ballparks are $1 million up to $1.7 million. Most arenas are about 600,000 to $1 million. So we're essentially a large super arena, for lack of a better term. And so you pack a lot of benefits into that smaller footprint. The rakers of the seating go up vertically a lot faster, so you're on top of the action, meant to mirror some of the older ballparks, Wrigley or Fenway, where you're right on top of the field and right on top of the action. There's technically no upper deck. Our building ends where our last row would be the first row in an upper deck in most ballparks. So I think once you get in there, and you'll get a chance to see how close you are to the field in most of those seats. We've put a row of suites, a level of suites. They're the closest to the field in any ballpark. We have 2 dugout suites on the field. We have an area out in right field. A lot of these names are just sort of placeholders. We're calling it the barrel room. But you've been to Allegiant, the Winfield Club you referenced. So we have an area out in right field that will seat probably about 400 people. But the fence will be see-through in front of you, whether it's chain link or whatever material Major League Baseball asks us to put there. You'll be able to be basically at ground level watching the backside of the right fielder. You're basically on the field.
That's cool.
And call it a private event, we can take that fence out. So if you wanted to bring a group there, you would have the space for 400 people. We could take you out on the field for batting practice or throw the ball around. In left field, we took an area and made a double-decker bullpen while also creating this alleyway where you can essentially stand at the left field wall, watch the action on the field in front of you, turn around, watch the pitchers warming up. So just some things from an access standpoint that have never existed or don't exist or are the next iteration of that fan experience, fan access. You won't see the entire outfield wall plastered with advertising the way they do in some. There'll be advertising, obviously. There'll be partnerships, but you have the bullpen, you have this barrel room, so it won't look like just a billboard out in the outfield. It'll preserve that architectural look, that clean look. That's important to John. He wants to make sure that the building is emblematic of the brand and something special for Vegas to celebrate. Throughout the rest of the ballpark, a lot of areas that you can go and experience during a game. So you might be there for a 9-inning game. Maybe you sit in your seats for 3, 4, 5 innings. Maybe you go out to 1 or 2 spots for an inning or 2 and just get a different view of the ballpark. Go see some of the kid zone areas and activations that we're planning. Go out to a bar up on the upper deck and look out on the strip to your right. So just, you have to be constantly innovating in terms of what folks want out of the experience, and the building's pretty modular that way. We'll be able to use it that way, and then Vegas obviously demands a level of premium that doesn't exist in some markets. So there is a lot of premium product for the folks who live here and the fans that are coming here and the resort corridor that will use it as another entertainment piece.
It sounds fantastic. I mean, and I think, again, on game day or concert nights when they activate Allegiant Stadium, where the torches, those esplanades, where there's so much happening, so much energy, music, live things. And so I loved when you said that in the new ballpark, there'll be spaces like that overlook the strip. So you have that experience, but you're still in a ballpark, and can't wait to see that. That's
You've
awesome.
seen some of the renderings. If you look out now in left and center field, you'll see a huge plaza there, and that will be an area similar to what you're talking about. That will be a gathering point both for the entrance into the ballpark as well as during the game, a really good space to sit and watch from a perspective that's maybe different than a seat down the third baseline.
Can't wait. Yeah. And I'm glad you said Pennants, right? Mm-hmm. Because I kept saying the Sydney Opera House, but no, now I'm going to say Pennants. That's what that symbolizes right there. That's really cool. So, Mark, another thing that I wanted to ask you today was, you and I sit together not just on the Vegas Chamber Board, but also the LVGA board, which has to do a lot with economic. It's all about economic development. And we in the workforce world, you can't have growth in the economy without the workforce, and so we partner with them as well to make sure that employers are coming in or growing in Southern Nevada, that there is a good vision on what that workforce needs to look like. So we work with our talent acquisition partners in the Clark County School District, community college, university, so forth. Why is it important for an organization like the A's to be involved in the Chambers of Commerce and an economic development organization in our region?
Sports teams are always actively involved in the community. The athletics are no different. But even before starting the project, they were on the ground. We were on the ground in a number of different ways, supporting youth baseball, youth softball, and a lot of the folks that in town, being a part of just the areas of need that this area really requires. From an LVGA standpoint and a chamber standpoint, we're the newest folks to come to town, and we want to be respectful of that, and we want to be supportive of that. Our job is to drive tourism. Our job is to bring more events to town, economic development. But you also want to see that growth that we've seen just in the 9 or 10 years that I've been coming here. There's probably 300,000 or 400,000 more people here, and this area is on a growth trajectory probably for the next 20 or 30. You mentioned Jeremy Aguero. He obviously has all those numbers at the top of his head. I can't do it as well as him, but you want to bring in some diversification. You want to bring in some new industries. I remember for a few years being on LVGEA, there was a lot of manufacturing jobs that came to town that obviously added a new industry to this market, and the sports growth and the event growth that Allegiant brought and that our ballpark will bring will do that as well. But we all have that responsibility to show people what it's like to live here, the benefits of living here, and what this area can do for your business.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. Over the last decade, as you were saying, the sports scene has grown tremendously here. I remember when I got here in 1987, the only thing we could watch, and it was not a small thing, was the national champions running Rebels, and so that was a great run where Tarkanian was here, and I'm glad to see him doing better again now. But we have now professional sports teams, several of them winning, their respective trophies, the Stanley Cup and the WNBA, 3-time champions aces. And so it's just so fantastic. Now we have our own, we're going to have an MLB stadium with our own team. And so there is also, as we're talking about economic development and growth, there's always the question about what's next. And so I know you can't make predictions, but what do you see perhaps us having the potential to attract in the next decade when it comes to sports?
I'd go back a decade, and I would say that it was always a great sports market in the sense that you had large-scale events here. You just had some archaic leagues, including the 4 majors, that looked at the gaming establishment in a negative way and eventually got over that hurdle and realized that this market was somewhere to basically have a tentpole marquee asset. You reach an international market in a domestic location. You reach 40 million plus people a year. You reach conventioneers. And the infrastructure that was built here and cultivated over time is so effective and so powerful for that entertainment market. It was obviously used for more traditional entertainment shows, those types of things, and then the convention world. But the sports world, as it's grown and evolved and become more of a spectacle, the infrastructure here is so strong. I assume you either went to or were part of the Super Bowl festivities. The efficiency with which this market absorbed that entire experience was incredible. Yeah. And obviously I've had the benefit of going to a lot of markets, and everyone does it differently and everyone does it well. This place, it's like a chameleon here. The next day, the next convention came to town, the Super Bowl loaded out, and the next large couple $100 million impact, billion-dollar impact event rolled right in. And so you really need to have a footprint here if you're going to call yourself an entertainment entity. You mentioned F1. What do I think's next? Obviously, when we were building Allegiant, we had conversations with MLS. I think there's still a number of groups that are looking to the possibility of bringing soccer here. They want their own venue. Venues are expensive. That presents its own challenge. I spent 3 years working on an arena for a potential NBA team. That's obviously something that somewhere down the road, I have to assume will come here. I don't know the answers to that. I didn't really know the answers to that when I was working with Oakview Group and working on that project. We were at the whim of the NBA, and they would obviously put little feelers out every once in a while. But the goal was to be ready for an NBA team. And I think when the NBA sits down and looks at whether or not they're going to expand, there's some discussion as to whether they're going to do that this year or not. Have the discussion, not necessarily expand. What market would you rather have a location in? So I do think that will, that's in the next decade, 1 or 2 of both of those. I also think you're going to see the creation of what I'll just call large-scale IP. What do I mean by that? The best example would be what the TKO folks did with WrestleMania last year in taking over the whole city. And they have all these different assets. So they have WWE, they have UFC, they're getting into boxing. And so they can bring and create these new super weeks, super weekends. and have multiple events all over this town. So you could envision a scenario where all the venues work together, the Ballpark, Allegiant Stadium, T-Mobile, the Sphere, F1, everybody's sort of saying, look, let's get all of these pieces of this event together and bring it here, whether it's over a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and utilize all the assets that we have here in town, the airport, the transportation system, the 150,000 plus hotel rooms, and now all these venues, and create some new events and some new things that may exist within the existing sports leagues, but aren't necessarily on the calendar yet. This market has the ability to do that. So I think that's coming in the next decade.
That sounds exciting. Before I move on, I want to ask you, though, I think it's been a little unfair that we've been having our brand here in front. And I know, can I ask you to bring out a little branding so we can show a
little product placement?
Yes, a little product placement. That's going to look good here. When can we officially start to call it the Las Vegas Athletics?
We're already calling it the Las Vegas Athletics ourselves.
Okay.
I would imagine that you'll start to see some of that pop up as the ballpark continues to take shape and we work through some of the things with Major League Baseball.
That sounds good. Enough about work, because I know we could talk forever here, but we want to also get to know, or the audience to get to know a little bit about you and perhaps what fills your cup. How do you have a pretty demanding job and a very important, thing to get done here in the next 2 years, leading a big team. But when you need to recharge your batteries, what kind of hobbies, interests help you do that, help you get refreshed and come back in the week? What do you enjoy doing with your loved ones, with your family?
Currently, you mentioned Jeremy Aguero. I have a monthly chess match with him.
Nice.
I hope he listens to this because now I'm ahead 29, 26, and 5.
Wow.
So I may never play him again, and I can just retire with that title.
I love it. I
try and spend as much time as I can with my family. I have 3 grown kids, my wife Amy and I, and they're all over the country, so we try and get to see them. Have a really nice network of friends and family here in town, play some sports with them, try and do some hiking. We go out to Red Rock a lot. I just enjoy what this community has to offer. I wouldn't say I'm a big world traveler. We do take some trips every once in a while. You mentioned the Sydney Opera House. We were just down in Australia over the holiday and had a chance to see probably the most significant, architecturally significant building in the world just up close. And it does inspire what I think Bjarke Ingels did for the ballpark. I try to keep busy. I wouldn't say I have one passion. Okay. I would say I have a lot of passions that occupy my time.
A little follow-up question, because no wonder you're so fit. What sports do you practice?
I play a little bit of tennis. I play poorly at golf. We do a lot of hiking. We got a couple of dogs. We walk them a lot. Try and stay as active as possible. Have
you ever gotten yourself a USTA rating?
I am a modest 3 to 3.25. How's that? I'm good enough to not embarrass myself, but I don't think you want to recruit me for your team.
Well, I used to play, no longer. I now play table tennis, which if you ever want to play, we have a club here. But so when I played, I was also a 3.5 USTA player.
Got it. Well, we probably have a good match.
Yeah, we probably could have a good match. I don't know about now. You look pretty fit. Well, thank you for sharing that personal part of you. Now, out of our listeners, there might be somebody who identifies with that 18-year-old young kid from New York that fell in love with the sports world. And we always, in our journey, gain these white hairs for, wisdom, some people call it. And I always think about if I could talk to the 18-year-old version of myself, how much pain and suffering I could save that guy, with all the wisdom I have now. But then I think, and remember, that guy probably wouldn't listen to me anyway. But what advice could you share that you have learned? What could you tell an 18-year-old who says, man, I want to have a career in sports like Marc, start here at the entry level and one day lead a franchise, lead organization? Is there a certain recipe for success that you can share?
There's some positives and some negatives there. I think when we started talking and I shared my story, the industry was very small back then. So if you got an opportunity, you had a lot of optionality within that opportunity. You just had to make the most of it. Some of the coaches used to say your best ability is availability, and that's always the case. There's a lot of 18-year-olds and a lot of 22-year-olds, and people ask me to talk to their children all the time. And I'm very direct with them, and I'm very honest. It's a tough business. It's a tough business to get your foot in the door. Once you do, it's what do you do with that opportunity? And it's a fairly closed ecosystem. So the relationships you make when you're young could last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You could go through the media guides of any team and start to look at the people that have been there for a long time and then see all the people that have been a part of their ecosystem and worked with them maybe at one place forever and maybe at multiple stops along the way. The easiest way into the business is through a sales channel. Every team's looking to generate revenue. Every team has tickets to sell in every sport. It's a tough job. Any sales job's a tough job. I don't know if you've ever had any. But you get on the phone and you make a lot of calls and you get 99 no's for one yes. And there's only certain types of personalities that can handle that amount of rejection and enjoy the wins and enjoy the success. And so that's a tough way to get in, but that's probably the easiest way. Obviously, having some personal relationships with people in the sports world can help. The industry has grown so substantially, both in terms of number of teams, number of leagues. The absolute explosion in women's sports that's occurred over the last 5 to 10 years is great for the industry because now you have multiple leagues and multiple teams that need staff and need people to pursue those jobs as well. The minor leagues are a great place to get your foot in the door. Look, you're not going to make a lot of money. You have to be prepared to make some financial sacrifices. You need to be able to live with the time demands, right? Baseball's 162 games. Yeah. That's a lot. That's the most. Yeah. I have a lot of admiration for the people that I work with now, knowing how many when we were at the NFL, I was going to make fun of them, but we used to sort of say like, God, I couldn't imagine working 162 games. And it's a lot. And so you give up a lot of other things in your life. You mentioned what do you do to recharge? You sacrifice some of that when you get into sports. But it is a fulfilling industry, and it is rewarding. And I always say if you're not excited by game day, you probably shouldn't get into the business. If you don't have that competitive fire, if you don't want to be a part of that team culture, you should probably go find something else to do and just be a fan and go to your sporting event when you want. If you really want to make it your passion, you want to make it your job, you have to go into it pretty honestly and openly and understand what those sacrifices are.
Marc, as we close the podcast, I can't believe it's gotten this fast. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. But as we close the podcast today, is there any major milestones as you said we're month 7 and what kind of schedule for the stadium?
31 months.
31 months. What major milestones would you like to share with us that are coming up or events or happenings? How are people now going to engage with the A's organization to maybe take a tour of the place where the mock-up is so you can maybe start to select seats, budget for that? Off camera, we were talking about PSLs and stuff. What kind of any announcements or information that you would want to share with our audience about what's coming in the next 36 months?
Sure, I'll break it up into 3 parts. You mentioned the Experience Center we opened at the Uncommons a couple months ago. We aren't open to the public yet, but we have just a great way for you and other folks in town to engage with the brand, see a little bit about our history, and then look at the ballpark, because it's a civic asset and they should see what they're a part of. And so I think you'll enjoy coming out there and seeing both the model, and we have this immersive experience called the Cube where we can put you in a room about this size and you're surrounded by screens on 5 sides, and we can put you anywhere in the ballpark, and we can put you in some really great aerial shots over the strip and show you where the ballpark is. It's a really incredibly innovative, technological, not just sales tool, but just a tool to promote this area and to promote the ballpark. So we'll be open to the public, I would say, after a few months. We have about 20,000 names on a deposit list that have all expressed interest in being a part of the ballpark. And so we'll go through those folks and give them a chance to see if there's a product that they're interested in purchasing at the ballpark. At the job site itself, you're starting to see the building come up over the walls. So the entire first deck along the first and third baselines is basically poured. All the concrete and steel's in there. And then the second deck has started to be poured. You'll start to see the elevator cores and the stair cores come up. And then you'll start to see some of the steel erection of the roof and the pennant structure we talked about this summer. And that's, from an engineering standpoint, is just absolutely incredible in terms of how they're doing that and the connectivity pieces. And they pour these things called shoring pads so that if you were a kid and you built models, they're basically 2 or 3 pieces that come up like this. You have to support them. Wow.
Wow.
So they'll build these shoring platforms. The steel will go up and support them, and then eventually they connect it. They pull the shoring platforms out. So just some amazing things from an engineering standpoint. We do have a live cam where you can go on and go on our Ballpark app and pull up and see the live construction cam and watch what's going on there. There's about 400 or 500 people, 400, 500 workers out there every single day right now, and that will ramp up. And then our activities in the community. We've tried to be everywhere as much as we possibly can, supporting all parts of Las Vegas and Southern Nevada, parts of the state. We support every Little League team, every softball team, and we'll continue to do that. And you'll continue to see our folks on boards, being a part of all these different agencies that you interact with. You'll start to see A's representation there. A lot of the folks have started making their plans to move here. There'll be a lot more people moving here by the summertime once their kids get through school. So you start to see a lot more of the full-time A's staff here on the ground. And we're just excited to be a part of the community. It's been fun for me going through it a second time to watch the reception that the folks at the Athletics are getting in this community. They're so excited. Just at the break, I was talking with our friend over here and how excited he is for having baseball here. And you have those conversations every single day. And the folks at the Athletics who have been through a couple of tough years on and off the field and have been working so hard to get a stadium project built. Once you get into the sports industry, if you're not a member of the team, I would say that being a part of a project like this, a ballpark, an arena, a stadium, it's pretty much the pinnacle of what you can do professionally. So to watch all these folks who have been through that 5, 10, 15-year process of start, stop, finally have a project and finally have this North Star to look at and this end goal of early 2028 when their team and their organization, their families and their friends get to come and experience something pretty special on the Strip in this ballpark. It's fun to know it's coming. It's fun to watch it from the perspective of having the benefit of doing it once before. So
now
it's going to be a fun couple of years.
Now that you've teased it, I got to come to the experience center.
You come with us today if you'd like.
All right. Wow. Well, Marc, thank you for the passion you have for our community. From the day I met you, I could feel it. Thank you for saying yes to the A's and staying here with us because we were all afraid we were going to lose you. And thank you for coming today to record the podcast with us. We'd love to have you back. We are going to take you up on the offer and come see the space and let us know how we can support this journey as well for the A's.
Thanks, Jaime. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Marc. And shout out to the team that behind the cameras that makes this happen. That's it for another episode of this podcast. We hope to see you at the next one. Well, Marc, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready?
Ready.
The first segment is called Your Favorite. So I'm going to give you a category. You're going to give me your favorite thing in that category. Let's start with an easy one. Your favorite food.
Sushi.
Favorite beverage with dinner.
Blanton's Gold Bourbon.
Favorite dessert after dinner.
Bananas Foster.
Favorite way to start your day.
Walking the dogs.
Favorite way to unwind after a long day.
Walking the dogs.
Favorite hobby or weekend activity.
Right now, tennis.
Favorite vacation spot.
Just went to Australia. I would put that at the top of the list.
Favorite holiday.
July 4th.
Favorite car you've ever owned.
Volkswagen GTI.
Love that one. Favorite college sports team.
Right now, I'm going to go with North Carolina Tar Heels.
I think I know the answer to this one. Favorite professional sports team.
Athletics.
That's right. You made it through the first segment. The second one's called Tough Choices. It gets a little harder. I'm going to give you two things, and hopefully you can pick one. But it's okay if you want both. Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Once you go there, would you rather stay in a hotel or an Airbnb?
Hotel.
When you retire one day, Marc, I hope it's not soon, will you want to retire on a ranch or in the city?
Neither.
Neither. If you have a day out to yourself, would you rather spend it by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
I'd like to do both.
Here's a tough one. Would you rather have more time or more money?
Time.
If you were a superhero, would you rather have the ability to fly or breathe underwater?
Fly.
The ability to speak with animals or speak any foreign language?
Animals.
Here's where it's going to get tougher, but you got to try to choose one or the other. Truth or kindness?
Kindness.
Actions or words?
Actions.
Justice or grace?
Justice.
Well, you made it through the tough choices. The last one is called finish the sentence. If you can, I'm going to give you 90% of the sentence. You're going to finish it for me. Mark, if you could visit any place in the world, it would be
Tokyo.
The best part about living here in Southern Nevada is
Outdoor activities.
Your favorite thing about your job as president of the Athletics is
Watching the existing staff go through this experience.
And if you could travel back in time, you would travel to
1986.
3 words that describe you, Mark, are
Loyal, obedient, happy.
Very good. And doing the WC podcast here with us today was?
It was very enjoyable.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mark, for being here.